Hello, welcome everybody. Get started in a couple minutes. Feel free to turn cameras on. I always love to see you if you'd like. Hi, Sarah. Letting people in. Two Sarahs. Hi, Sarah. Um, so one thing you guys, as I'm letting people in, you can gather any props. I'd love for you to have like some kind of strap, but if you don't have a yoga strap, it could be a belt, it could be a scarf. If you have any kind of massage ball, I'd also love for you to have that. If not, we can sub a yoga block for what we're gonna do. But like if you have yoga blocks, extra pillows, blankets, bolsters, your normal yoga stuff. And if you don't have normal yoga stuff, some kind of cushion, some kind of strap or scarf or belt or something that you could use would be great. We'll give folks a couple more moments. Welcome. Hi, Michaela. Everyone who's just coming on, if you have a yoga strap or a belt or a scarf, any kind of massage ball. If not, no massage ball, we can substitute a yoga block. I'll give both options, but if you have yoga block, if not that, a book. Just gather kind of your props, and also if you have socks or a sweater around for when we go into restorative practice, if your space is a little chilly, you might want to have those things around. But give people like one more. Well, a bunch of people are all coming in right now. And then we'll probably start in a couple more minutes. Welcome everyone who just came in. If you want to, I always love to see your face if you're willing, even just to say hi for a moment if you don't want to keep the camera on. Um, and as you're getting settled, whatever yoga stuff. Hey, Dina. Hi. Um, Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but as people come in, some kind of strap. Hey, Emily. Um, Strap, massage ball, yoga blocks, cushions, blankets. Just get yourself set up so you don't have to run around in the middle of class. So you have some options for restorative posture. You have some options if you get cold, um, extra blankets and such. All right. Hi, Lexi. I'll make an announcement again about props, but it's like 5 after now, so we'll at least start chatting. So welcome everyone. For those of you I know, hello. For those of you who are new to me, my name's Abby Paloma, and I do every solstice and equinox, so summer and winter solstice and spring and fall equinox, I offer these free classes. It's an extension of a program that kind of came out of the pandemic that we called seasonal sangha, that we kind of met in these little seasons, but now it's just become this free offering. But I still consider it, this is our seasonal sangha and our time to kind of get together on these, big pivots of nodes. So today being the shortest day or longest night. And um, I want to talk a little bit just like about the energetics of the season, a little bit from a TCM perspective, and also just like everyday life, how we can be with the season. And then we'll move into a movement practice and restorative practice. Um, I, those of you who know me, I love teaching, I love questions. So this in the beginning part too, if there's any questions or thoughts, feel free to add in. You don't have to feel like you're interrupting me. Um, so one thing I like to distinguish is that sometimes we think of like summer and winter as opposites. And I really like to rephrase that as thinking of it as complements rather than opposites, that they exist together. So we're at kind of like the bookends of the year, the longest day being summer and the longest night being um, this winter solstice. And in the Chinese medicine perspective, we're entering, it's not just, yes, this is a node, like a still point of energy that's very important that we can get to, where we basically go from now on, days are getting longer again. Even though we have the long cold winter, like we're out of this like hole that we've kind of been winding into, and we're actually the light is slowly returning, and it will start to become more and more palpable that the days are getting longer again as we enter into January. But beyond this moment of like the still point that today represents, it's really kind of like, I would say, like the opening of winter season and the energetics of what it is to be in the most yin, fertile darkness time of the year. Um, and unfortunately, we live in a world that doesn't like, yes, we have seasons and holidays, and, we're selling Halloween candy in September and, Christmas decorations like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And, like we're always in this kind of seasonal capitalism. But most of the time, what's expected of us in our day-to-day lives is to go on irregardless of the season. It's like same work expectations, same house care expectations. Everything is the same, and we're not really living connected to the season. We're living kind of like independent of the season. We can keep our house at 72 degrees year round, whether it's winter or summer.
Yeah,
So first invitations is like how really on an individual level, as like we open into winter, like how do you connect to the season? How do you connect to winter? How do you mark that this is a different energetic time? And
yeah,
that's like an open-ended question. And then the what I would kind of suggest is to think of sometimes on the solstice, think of it as the strong energetic point, but it's not like we have to like decide some like big dreams right now. We're actually entering the season of what I would say dreaming. Like kind of the winter is the season of letting our normal consciousness of clarity actually unravel a little bit, and to be in the unknown with what we want, what we think we want, like what we're doing right now, and kind of let your mind and your desires get messy for a while, so that when spring comes, we've kind of sifted through the year and reflected, and we know what seeds we want to plant in spring. And this is a process that takes time. It's not like I'm planting the seeds for spring now on the solstice. No, we're entering this dreaming cycle where we really get to like kind of be courageous and in the of what being in the unknown means. Like I don't, being really kind of actually radical in our mind. Like, if like everything we're going to change in my life by spring, like how could I try on with the wildest imagination what life could be like? New job, new house, like, like just like to really kind of extract what do you want What do you want to put energy towards, and what seeds do you want to plant? And being willing to get in kind of the murky darkness that winter holds us in to explore all these things that we usually cling to with clarity in our lives. So I know that's very abstract, but it's it's the invitation of the season to not be to let yourself be more in the unknown than you normally would, you know? And it's countercultural because we're entering um, the season, the capitalism season where it's saying by January you should have all your resolutions and you should know exactly what you should are doing. But actually, by January you should be thick in the middle of I don't know and getting ready to plant your resolutions for spring. At least if you were asking me from living more seasonally and related. So I encourage you to kind of take off that New Year's resolution pressure and this kind of like Gregorian calendar 2026 entry point, and actually think of this as like the still point that's bringing us into the spring equinox. And by then we will have clarity. Um, Other just like kind of more practical wellness health tips is I think when it's cold and we're focusing on cozy season, um, we can forget to be outside and still exposed to natural light. And so seeking the sunshine, seeking natural light, finding activities that bring us joy outside through the season is really important part of our health. Um, and even, yes, the warm sun on a very cold day is always beautiful, and more inviting, but even just getting outside, getting the natural light versus like all our indoor LED light, it can be really rejuvenating to our system. Um, Focusing on warm foods. So if you're like a smoothie person every single morning, maybe trying to find a alternative morning breakfast for winter, more warm foods, more soups. I call it like cozy blanket foods, so to really support our digestion. And when we think of winter, it's a time of really like internal nourishment. We like nourish our inner pilot lights of like what is most vital for our essence. But I also think of like how do we nourish ourselves with less expectations of what we should be doing right now. And if you're have kids or family members dependent on you and your job is has a seasonality of busyness that can kind of be mentally challenging. But even in your inner world, like where can we actually expect less? And like how can having less expectations on ourselves and on the structure of our day to day be a form of nourishment? So a little just more spaciousness and more freedom, how we think about our lives in this season. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to convey. So, if there's not any thoughts or questions, we will move into our movement practice. But um, let's grab, for those of you who are kind of joining us, I asked for you to grab any kind of strap or belt or scarf. We're going to start with this. And then if you have any kind of massage ball, if you don't have a massage ball, a yoga block we can substitute for and get like your cushions and blankets and things that we'll need for later. Excuse me. So we're going to start seated with the strap and then we'll actually move into standing. I want you to be really free with this, where we are opening up our stuck shoulders and moving shoulder blades and the scapula. I want you to kind of be quite dynamic. I'm even kind of moving my legs. The classic motion here is the rolling open and close of the arms. So you can do that, see how that feels. And then maybe get a little weird about it, you can pin one arm down on the floor, kind of focus on one arm opening. And think about more exploratory rather than just one exercise, playing with the tension, how much you're holding the strap. You can bend one elbow, you can kind of weave it over your head, under your head. Very like kind of childlike exploration rather than doing something right or wrong. Start to side bend, forward fold, wrap it around. And really the shoulder is made up of the humerus, the arm bone, the collarbone, and the scapula. And so we want all those bones moving as we do this. So it's not just part of the arm. So we're kind of stirring up the lactic acid in the joint, releasing kind of this cold shoulder winter coat thing that we do, plus iPhones. So let's break that up. Break it up. All right, and then same thing, but now we're going to invite more of our body to move. Let's take it to standing. You guys should be able to, yeah, see me. So now we have a lot more improv room to play here. You can get it deeper into a side bend. You can, again, hold one side down as you stretch up through the other arm. Reach the scapula off the shoulder as you're playing here. You can move your feet around so you're not even static in one place, seeing what different shapes the body wants to make, changing your prop around. Notice how your breath is changing to your movement, getting more dynamic. You even start to change levels as you're moving. So getting into a more mid squat, getting onto the tippy toes, getting low squat. Just playing. Just playing. And we'll start by putting, and then we'll bring that strap to the floor. Let's keep massaging the shoulders by bouncing the shoulders, shaking the arms. Really let your breath, like let this be a vigorous heating activity. Like bouncing, bouncing, bouncing the shoulders, sighing out through the breath, creating some heat. If your whole body wants to start jumping, you definitely can. But like you have wings, you're flapping your wings, you're making so much space in your chest, rolling the shoulders, and then start to get more like backstroking. We're like massaging the whole shoulder joint, backstroking the arms, rolling the arms. We're moving the lymph. This is a huge wash to the lymph system by rolling the shoulders. And again, think about it, it can be actually pretty like chaotic motions. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. And as you're rolling the shoulders, let the spine start to get a little more involved. So start rolling the spine, undulating the spine. And again, you can't do it right or wrong. Letting the head neck move. As you're rolling the shoulders, you're rolling the wrist. Now we're just starting to move all of the joints. One of my teacher always says, be like a fish. And it works for me. I don't know if it works for you. but the way the fish swims through the water, and we're working through the water element. The winter is the water season, the murky water, the still deep waters, and the undulating, moving the spine. Let's not become rigid in the pursuit of flexibility. Let's keep the fluidity, the water in our joints, the water of our spine, the cervical spinal fluid, moving and undulating. You should actually be getting your heart rate up at this point a little bit. Very good. Now we're gonna open the soles of the feet, which is our connection to kidney 1. So the water element is represented by the organs, the kidneys and the urinary bladder. And the channel starts in the sole of our foot. So if you have a ball, you'll use the ball to roll the fascia of the feet. That's pretty obvious. If you don't, you can use a yoga block, in kind of the corner of a yoga block or the side of the yoga block, and massage this arch underneath the toes, underneath the ball of the toes, and it's kind of step around the block. Then you can actually put the block in the central arch and massage the foot that way if you don't have a ball. And if you like to move your body, I highly suggest investing. And I prefer the yoga tune-up balls. I think that's the right softness, firm. They didn't pay me to say that, by the way. I just think that it's a great product. So always when I'm teaching, I'm trying to give you tools of things that you can, little movement bites you can have in your pocket. And rolling out the soles of the feet will literally change the fascial expression throughout your entire body. So if you have very little time and you want to do something to change your structure and change the way you're going to move through the day, it could be just rolling out the bottoms of the feet. If you don't have animals that will steal your massage balls, sometimes I say keep a massage ball where you keep your shoes. So when you put on your shoes, you'll be forced to roll your feet out. All right, by now, hopefully you've done both feet. Then put the massage ball away, and let's actually keep stretching the feet. We're going to open the soles of the feet by coming in this little perch position. From there, if your feet can hang, you can actually bring the knees down. In that position, I like making sure that all the toes get tucked and engaged. This is really challenging. Humming sometimes can make it a little bit more. I'm finding out whose audio is on, I guess. All right, and then we'll actually down on the ground. I love hearing your humming, but I am gonna mute you. Sorry, guys. Bounce the top of the feet on the ground. Sit back on the shins. I know for those of you who take my classes often, I say this all the time, but don't lose this position as we age. It's a really great position. If you can do this, you are maintaining a lot of health in your knees. So if your natural life doesn't bring you to this position, intentionally add this position in. So we're going to go from here. rocking up to the feet. You can use your hands, or you can not use your hands. Balancing. And then knees down, coming up. Coming back down into the Vajrasana position, sitting here. We are gonna go into more stillness later in the practice, but now just we've actually moved a fair amount, so just checking in how you're feeling, how your breath is feeling, your capacity for stillness right now, how restless you feel versus how able you feel to be still. And then from this position, we'll come back into that little perch. We're gonna come into more of a standing sequence from this. So stillness moving exercise, but we'll stay in this perch position. And almost like you're being pulled up from the top of your head, we're gonna come to stand all the way up on the tippy toes. So rising up, trying to keep your balance. Standing on your tippy toes, feeling the fascia. You're pulling that water, that kidney energy up from the floor so it can nourish all the way up to the lungs, to the vital organs. You guys stay. I'm just letting someone in again. Two more breaths. Bring the feet down. And now rock heel to toe until you find what I would say kind of is your just comfortable natural distance. It might be slightly wider than the hips, it might be slightly narrower than the hips, and you can play with what that is, rocking toe to heel until you find what would be your standing position. Really try to find weight in the heels. So this kind of dissolving of the back body, this relaxation of the pelvis. You're not tucking, but just letting the pelvis fall. Heaviness in the sits bones, softness in the knees, openness in the ankles. And the practice we're going to do next, it's kind of like a partial sun salutation, but it's the adaptation of a qigong exercise. And I'll guide you through the first couple, and then I really invite you to kind of go at your own pace. We'll probably maybe do up to 10, depending on your pace, and guide you through. So lifting the arms, reaching up towards the sky, almost making a triangle with the hands, keeping the arms about the height of the head as you look forward to your hands, and you're reaching with your front body as you pour more of your weight into your toes. So it's almost like I'm on the precipice and then I fall with my arms. And now I'm noticing I actually want wider feet. So I'm shifting my feet, not sticking to any position. Letting my spine hang, neck roll. And then I bring my hands. It's like we're massaging this kidney channel up from the soles of the feet, up the inner legs, bringing these waters up. And you're using the hands to press the inner legs. So the spine's floating. You're not lifting the spine, but the strength of the legs is pushing up. And then when you get to your hips, you're spreading across your hips, leaning back, arching back, letting the chest be high, not just flinging the head back, and really focusing on bending the knees. It's not like at the farthest back bend you ever had, but stretching the fascia. So gripping down with the toes, stretching the skin, the flesh of the thighs, and then coming up back to center, up to standing. As you right yourself, you lift your arms, coming back up to the next round. Breathing however you'd like as you do this. So eyes are gazing towards the hand, head about the height of the arms, stretching the whole body forward, and eventually releasing the energy, coming into your fold. This is an internal body massage, so you can't do anything wrong. Be curious. Use the hands to press up the legs, sweeping up this kidney channel. When you get to the hips, you start to bend into the knees and like you use your hands to spread the width of your body. So you're like opening across your midline. Coming back up to center, and now just continue on your own. I'm going to be quiet here. If you get lost, you can look at me. The biggest reminders was you roll up, use your legs. So really find that pressure of the legs to float the spine up. If you get dizzy, you can always pause and standing. Do about 4 more. Whichever one you're on, make this your last one. And just coming to standing pose. Feeling any heat that you were able to produce in your body, particularly in the soles of the feet, and your connection to the ground. That natural buoyancy coming from the legs. By actually pressing down into the legs, we create the opposition to gravity, but it's actually using gravity. So it's not in resistance to the world, but it's complementing gravity, right? We're going to bring our hands onto our hips, take a little bit of a wider stance. So that was what we were doing. It's called kind of spinal pose. And now we're going to work more rotationally. And so we're undulating the spine, rounding and arching, but then we're also going to add the rotation. So there's an element of it that kind of seems like that like matrix move, but you can always watch the first couple. But I'm actually going to start by just fully kind of flexing. I'm not going to go to my deepest point yet because no need to be greedy, right? We're just starting. So I'm just starting to flex into the knees, rounding the spine, soften the head. Then I'm pushing off the legs, twisting, pushing off the legs. As I'm twisting, I'm looking behind me, leaning back into that posture that we just were by bending into the knees to open the chest, let the lungs fall over the sternum. And then as I look behind me, this kind of that more matrix move, twisting again, looking behind me as I sink into the squat. Pelvis softens, head softens, squatting in circles. So we're going to do 6 in each direction. Going through the back bend. And the hips and feet are driving. Everything else is kind of following. Looking behind me, squatting, driving with the legs. Let the legs push you up. Unwinding, twisting, arching, feeling the rotation of the thigh bones. As you get warmer, maybe you go deeper. And if you've done 6 or about 6, then we'll reverse. So I'm twisting the opposite direction. Rounding. Always pause in that round if you'd like. Pushing out of the legs. And one side might be very different. We all have kind of a stable leg and a mobile leg. And depending on which leg's driving more, start to notice different instabilities. Again, letting it be a massage for the organs, for the joints. Can we nourish that water element? The hip joint, of the vertebra, of the spine, of the ankles, of the knees, of the neck. And then hopefully we've done just about 6 in each direction. And then we're just going to kind of go side to side, rotating, letting the arms start to swing. Again, this is still driving from the legs, free with the spine. Tapping the low back. So you can even, aim to tap your kidneys. There's a sound that wants to come out. Finding a rhythm here. Slowly bring that back to stillness, just feeling standing again. Noticing the appetite you have for stillness versus what still feels restless in the mind or body. And inviting just standing, nothing else. You're going to make these circles with the arms. They're going to cross in front of the midline and open, in front of the midline and open. And as you do this, if you have a little bit of room to shuffle and kind of walk as you do this, you don't have much space, you can walk forward and back, forward and back. You can go really slow or you can go really fast. You can play with the speed, one fast, one slow. And then we'll reverse it. So now we're going out and through the center and out and through the center. Then you can kind of start to make your circles to one side, make your circles to the other side. Undulate the spine, getting back to some of that initial movement we're in. Reverse the circles. And then slow that down again. Coming back to standing and breathing. We're going to do a little bit more deeper leg work, standing leg work, working on the kidney channels and into the knees, into the hips, and then we'll start making our way down to the floor. We're going to take what's called a mountain stance. So my feet are slightly turned out. The knees are in line with the feet. So this isn't a game again of how low or how deep you can go. If I were to give you one cue to really hold on to as we move into levels of this position, is let the knees and the feet be in relation. So I don't want my knees knocking in while my feet are turned out, or any vice versa of that. But trying to keep a relationship between the position of the knee and the position of the foot. So we're going to come up onto our tippy toes in this position. And sometimes, people like hands on the hips. Sometimes I actually imagine like a little tree hug here, holding in the light, the essence in my body. And now we're going to keep the heels lifting. So it's a little bit of a balance, but start to bend the knees and sink into that standing squat. Stay for a couple breaths. And then maybe you can get a little deeper and lower the heels down. And then using all edges of the feet, press into the feet, straighten through the legs, gather energy up the legs, lift the heels, come back up to the tippy toes. Keep the heels lifted. So kind of this tippy toe squat. Slowly lower the hips, keep the sits bones directing down, stretching the lumbar, and pressing up. Gathering the legs, gathering the heels. Sinking, heels lifted. Lower heels down. Rise. Let's do 3 more. Heels lifted. Keep the heels lifted, bending. Lower the heels, drop the pelvis, and stand. Heels lifted. Sink. Drop the heels, sink even more. Press into the feet. Rise, last one. Heels lifted, lower. And sink. Come to stand. Heel toe the feet back together. Shake out the legs. Walk around a little bit, and we can also start bringing props to the mat as we make our way towards the floor. So I have a blanket here. We have 2 blocks. The bolsters are not out of reach when I need them. So we're going to come into a back bend, a supported bridge pose. There's lots of variations with this. I personally love 2 blocks on top of each other on the lowest height. I like the big platform for the sacrum, but you can always do 1 block on the lowest height, 1 block on the middle height. If you don't have 2 blocks, but you want to come up higher, this is available. This position also somehow feels like pokey to me, so that's why I prefer the double block. That was extra information. But before we come into that position, lying your back, really just find where your pelvis is in space now that we've changed where we are. Now that the pelvis is horizontal with the floor, can windshield wiper the legs, which is really rotating the thigh bones in the pelvis. And then once you find a neutral position in the pelvis, lift up the pelvis and you can bring your support if there's any tinge of back pain or too much to this, I want this to be more on the restorative side of things. So you can always take it down a notch. No big deal. Like for me right now, I really just want to feel the stableness of the pelvis. A little bit of openness rather than my maximum openness. That's what feels good for me right now. can you rest your consciousness here? Right? Your homework was, how do you nourish yourself with less expectations? So there's, outside of choosing the shape of this pose, can we really just rest in the architecture of the pose? And if the mind is dancing, you can watch it dancing. You don't have to be the one engaged with the mind. Just creating a little space. For some of you, it might feel nice to bring the knees together, let the thighs roll in, which stretch the back of the sacrum a little bit more. And then all these suggestions, the knees knocked in, and then the next suggestion, they're not mandatory. So if you like where you are, stay where you are. If you want to turn it more into an inversion, a supported shoulder stand, and lift the legs. Call it seaweed legs. You don't have to be glued to a posture. You can actually just let the legs dance. A little anti-gravity. And if the legs are lifted, you can let the knees fall into the chest. Still keep that seaweed leg quality. It's kind of like a little massage for the sacrum. And then finding the floor again with the toes. Lifting up, removing the blocks. Stretch the spine as you come down. And then just let the spine be neutral. So you're not keeping it in a tucked or arched position, just really neutral spine. You can even rock a little bit like cat and cow-ish. And then roll to your side. And press up. Do one more kind of active-ish thing. This is a really nice counterbalance to the stretch we just did. So we were doing something that was kind of very level with the pelvis, but now we're going to do like an asymmetrical stretch with the pelvis that can help both strengthen and stretch the glutes. So I'm actually going to bring my block under my right knee here and come into hands and knees with the right knee on the block. And even though my left knee is on the ground, I'm trying to keep like very steady, like almost more weight in the right leg. And even here you can do a little cat and cow. So the point is to get this different kind of asymmetrical stretch in the pelvis because we do asymmetrical things all the time. And then the next action is rooting in the leg. So we're finding an even spine. And then it's like I'm going to hug my left hip up and kind of this like peeing dog, open the left hip up while I'm holding all on the right leg and then reverse that action. It's kind of like a pulley. My left hip is higher, but now I'm going to sink the left hip, elevating the right hip. We'll do a couple rounds of that. So now the right hip's elevating, but I'm suctioning up the left hip, opening into that rotation, and then reversing, kind of like slow ratcheting, isometrically landing softly down. About 3 more. Can actually be a little bit of an ab work too if you do it right. And then come off the block, stretch back and forth, just feel the one-sidedness of what we did. And then we'll put the block underneath the left knee. Even though the right knee is on the ground, I'm trying to really press down straight through that left femur. And a little cat and cow here. And then find neutral spine and that suctioning up of the right hip, open and slowly ratcheting down. You can always, I know we didn't do it on the other side, we can always, arch the spine a little bit as you come down and then suction back up. About 3 more. Removing the block, stretching into child's pose. You can always bring the block underneath your head. Right. Up, grab what bolster or whatever is your equivalent to couch cushion, bed pillows. We're going to use it to do a side bend before we go into Shavasana. And then I'm using a folded blanket for my head. So I'm making a little channel for my arm. So I'm sitting with my side waist up against the bolster. Little channel for the shoulder and the arm. Head supported. And then this arm could be long. I set myself up a little too close to this wall. But, or honestly, I love just bending the elbow here and just letting this arm totally relax here. Will be like a minute-ish per side, letting this space in between the ribs, the waist elongate, passively let the breath come in here. Start to roll yourself up just enough to flip to the other side. For my purposes, just because we're recording, I'm gonna turn myself the other direction. You can just roll over to the other side. Find that space for the arm and the shoulder to rest, and then support a little under the head. Maybe you start off with more of a stretch, and then you let the arm just rest and hang on the head. Gently start to press up again. We'll come into our final rest pose. We have lots of options based on what props you have, but the gist of it is always support under the knees, support under the head, and make sure you're warm enough. And there's always a temptation to bow out right now. So if you're fighting that temptation, please give yourself the rest. No one else. This is your time. This is your invitation to give yourself uninterrupted stillness right now, because it's really hard to do it for ourselves. So I'm your gatekeeper, and we're barely going to be there, not even 10 minutes. I can't see the time from here, but I promise you it's just a couple of minutes. So give yourself this gift of rest. Right now I'm really feeling the Stonehenge, as we call it in the restorative world. So the two blocks, bolster on the blocks again. If any support under the knees will work, but this can be a nice setup with the floating ankles. So the knees are supported and the ankles are floating. And then supporting the very tops of the shoulders and under the neck. You can kind of bunch, if you just have a pillow or if you have blankets, you can kind of bunch it up to support better under your head. If you want to get really crazy, you can dim the lights. Not crazy, but meaning giving yourself darkness with the stillness, where literally there's still the tiniest bit of light in the sky here on the East Coast. But we are entering the longest night. So let this be our entry into the longest night. The last night of Hanukkah for those who are celebrating. Place your hands, place your head, make yourself warm enough. read you a poem. Call out to your soul. Listen and return. Can you hear your soul calling out for you? Bring your ear down low, right on the ground. Listen real good. Bring your ear to your heart. Listen. Can you hear the longing, the echo of love calling back to you? Begin to deepen your breath. Again, just feeling is the access to stillness there? Is the restlessness prominent? Not judging, just noticing. Choosing stillness, even when our body feels restless, is still profound medicine. Bend your knees, bring the feet into the bolster, to the ground. And roll to your side. Take a couple of breaths on your side. And press yourself up to sit. Take a moment just to settle in your upright posture. Take in the effects of your practice, the residue, the state it's leaving you with. Thank you guys so much for joining me, to being part of the seasonal Sangha on our winter solstice. And remember, even though the winter might feel like it's just beginning, it's actually getting lighter from here on out. So after tonight is the darkest night, and we will have more light, and spring will come. So thank you guys so much, and hope to see you in the new year, and happy holidays. I'll stick around for a couple moments if you want to chat. Just going to turn off the recording.